The old man stood quietly at the counter, his hands trembling as they gripped a folded bill and a slip of paper. His cloudy eyes, hidden behind thick, scratched glasses, gave away the truth: he couldn't see a thing. Yet his dignity held firm, his voice low but steady as he spoke. "I'd like one lottery ticket, please." The cashier behind the counter, a young man named Travis, flashed a quick smile. His smile never reached his eyes. Those eyes darted from the old man's worn shoes to the fraying collar of his jacket, then back to the crisp bill in his hand. Travis had worked this corner store long enough to know desperation when he saw it. To the people in town, the old man was just Mr. Howard. He came in every Friday, tapping his way along the aisles with his battered cane, nodding at voices he recognized but rarely saying much. He never bought more than bread, milk, or the occasional soup can. But once a week, without fail, he purchased a lottery ticket. Folks whispered about it, some with pity, others with amusement. A blind man chasing luck he'd never see. But no one knew who Mr. Howard really was. That Friday, Travis leaned closer as he slid the ticket across the counter. "Here you go, sir. Lucky numbers, I'm sure." His voice carried a rehearsed warmth. But in his chest, a cold calculation churned. Travis was broke. Rent was past due, his girlfriend had packed up and left 2 weeks ago, and his car sat in the alley with an engine that wouldn't turn over. He was tired of being the guy everyone overlooked, the cashier ringing up candy bars for kids and cigarettes for men twice his age. He wanted out, and when the universe refused to give him a break, he had decided he'd take one. So when Mr. Howard placed his lottery ticket stub back on the counter while fumbling for his wallet, Travis's fingers moved before his conscience could scream. He slid the winning ticket into his apron pocket and replaced it with another. An unmarked, worthless slip. Mr. Howard tucked it into his coat pocket with a trusting nod. "Thank you, son." Travis forced a smile and bagged the man's bread. "Anytime, sir. You take care now." As the old man shuffled toward the door, tapping the floor with his cane, Travis's pulse hammered. He had no way of knowing if the ticket would actually pay off, but in his mind, he'd already leapt ahead to the possibilities. A new car. His own apartment. Maybe even leaving this dusty town for good. But what Travis didn't know was that Mr. Howard was far from the helpless man he appeared to be. Years ago, long before his eyesight faded, Mr. Howard had built an empire brick by brick. He'd started as a janitor at a steel company, sweeping floors for men who never bothered to learn his name. Through grit, patience, and a knack for reading people's motives, he'd risen from janitor to stockholder, from stockholder to owner of multiple factories across 3 states. He'd made investments that no one believed in, technology startups, real estate in neighborhoods everyone else abandoned, and later, renewable energy when the market laughed at it. By the time he lost his sight, his wealth had already grown to heights that most men could only dream about. He didn't flaunt it. He didn't live in a mansion or drive flashy cars. He lived simply, quietly, because to him, money was a tool, not an identity. The lottery ticket wasn't about winning, it was about remembering hope, a ritual he clung to, just as he clung to his independence. Travis, blinded by greed, had no idea that the man he tricked that night could buy and sell his entire life 10 times over. The next day, the town buzzed with news. The state lottery had pulled its numbers, and someone in their small corner of the world was sitting on a fortune. $50 million. The ticket had been sold at the corner store where Travis worked. Travis's stomach flipped when he saw the numbers. They matched perfectly. The ticket in his apron pocket, the one he had slipped away from Mr. Howard, was the golden key. At first, he could barely breathe. His fingers shook as he locked himself in the tiny bathroom of the store, pulling the ticket out again and again just to make sure. It felt unreal. For the first time in his miserable life, the world had tilted in his favor. But reality soon pressed in. Claiming a prize like that wasn't as easy as walking into the gas station and cashing out. Cameras, reporters, lottery officials, all of them would be there. And with them came questions. Did he really buy the ticket? Was there proof? Travis chewed at his nails, pacing in his narrow apartment that night. I just need to keep it together, he muttered. No one will know. Old man Howard can't even see straight. He won't remember a thing. But Travis underestimated two things: the sharpness of Mr. Howard's mind and the loyalty of those who quietly cared for him. At the diner across the street, the waitress named Sandra had noticed the odd exchange the night before. She'd seen Mr. Howard pull out his ticket, only for Travis to lean just a little too close, his hands moving quicker than usual. Sandra wasn't one to gossip, but something about it had stuck with her. She'd grown up watching people take advantage of her own father when he was down, and she had learned to spot the look of someone scheming. That tiny detail would soon unravel everything Travis thought he'd gotten away with. Travis barely slept that night. The ticket burned in his pocket like a live coal, his thoughts racing through every scenario. He pictured cameras flashing, reporters shoving microphones in his face, his name printed across newspapers. He saw himself stepping out of a sleek new car, his past struggles fading in the rearview mirror. By sunrise, his exhaustion didn't matter, he was too wired to care. He ironed his only dress shirt, one he usually wore for job interviews that never led anywhere, and rehearsed the lines he'd say when he handed the ticket to lottery officials. He would be polite, humble, maybe even shed a fake tear about how much this money would change his life. But while Travis planned his grand entrance, Mr. Howard sat quietly in his small living room, sipping tea. The lottery numbers had been announced the night before. He hadn't bothered checking them himself, he didn't cling to the hope of winning, only to the ritual of trying. Still, he noticed something strange. When he reached into his pocket, the texture of the paper felt different. Rougher at the edges, almost as if it hadn't come directly from the machine. He had bought hundreds of these tickets over the years, and even without sight, his fingers knew the difference. Something was off. He replayed the moment at the counter in his mind, the cashier's voice too eager, the slight pause when he handed the ticket back, the faint rustle of paper. Mr. Howard's lips pressed into a thin line. His blindness had sharpened his memory and instincts. And those instincts told him something had gone wrong. Meanwhile, Sandra, the waitress from the diner, couldn't shake the suspicion gnawing at her. She had seen Travis slip something into his apron pocket the night before. Maybe it was nothing, but with news of the winning ticket spreading like wildfire, the thought wouldn't leave her alone. She poured coffee for her morning customers, her mind spinning, until finally she untied her apron and walked across the street. The bell above the corner store jingled as she pushed the door open. Travis was behind the counter, his forced grin plastered across his face. "Morning, Sandra," he said, a little too brightly. She leaned an elbow on the counter, narrowing her eyes. "You hear the news? Winning ticket was sold right here." Travis's throat tightened. He swallowed hard, pretending to adjust the stack of gum packs beside the register. "Yeah, crazy, huh? Someone's life is about to change." "Yeah," Sandra said slowly. "Funny thing, though. I was here last night. Saw Mr. Howard buy his usual ticket." She tilted her head. "You remember that?" Travis forced a laugh. "Oh, sure. Old man never misses a Friday." Her eyes lingered on him, sharp and unblinking. "And I saw you slip something into your pocket right after. Looked a lot like a ticket." The color drained from his face. For a moment, he considered snapping at her, denying it outright. But Sandra wasn't someone easily fooled. She had that quiet, steady way of holding herself that made lies feel heavier. "Don't know what you're talking about," he muttered, turning his back to her as if stocking shelves. Sandra didn't push further, not yet. But as she walked out, she knew she'd seen enough. That afternoon, Mr. Howard called his nephew, Ethaniel, a lawyer who often handled his affairs. He explained, in calm, measured words, the strange feeling about his ticket and the suspicion gnawing at him. Ethaniel, young and sharp, didn't dismiss it. "Uncle, if you're right, this could be serious. Let me check into it." While Ethaniel made calls to the lottery office, Sandra quietly spread word at the diner. She didn't accuse Travis directly, but she asked enough questions that people began to wonder. By the next morning, the small town was buzzing not just about the winning ticket, but about who really held it. Whispers carried from the diner to the barber shop, from the gas station to the church steps. People remembered how Mr. Howard never missed a Friday, how he bought a ticket faithfully for years. And they remembered seeing him at the store the very night the winning slip was sold. Travis, oblivious to the growing storm, clutched his ticket as if it were oxygen. He rehearsed again and again how he would tell his story to the lottery officials, how he'd smile humbly and talk about his struggles. He told himself no one would doubt him. After all, who would believe a blind old man over a clean-cut cashier? But fate was already turning against him. When Ethaniel contacted the lottery office, they revealed that every ticket sold was logged with a timestamp and cashier ID. It didn't take long to trace the winning ticket to the exact moment Mr. Howard had made his purchase. And the record showed clearly, it was rung up under Travis's register, with Mr. Howard as the customer. Ethaniel felt his chest tighten with anger. "Uncle, we can prove it. That ticket was yours. Mr. Howard's face remained calm, though a faint smile touched his lips. He had suspected as much. "Then we'll let the boy play his hand. Sometimes, son, the best lesson is the one a man teaches himself." And so, while Travis strutted into the lottery office with shaky confidence, the trap was quietly closing around him. Travis walked into the lottery office with his head high, the ticket clutched tightly in his sweaty palm. He forced a humble smile, as if he were just an ordinary man lucky enough to stumble into fortune. But his heart thumped so loudly that every step sounded like a drumbeat of guilt. The clerk behind the counter took the slip from him and began the verification process. Machines whirred, numbers clicked across the screen, and Travis's chest swelled with anticipation. He was seconds away from becoming a multimillionaire. "Congratulations," the clerk finally said. "This ticket is the winner." The word sent a rush of adrenaline through Travis's veins. For a moment, he almost collapsed from the weight of relief. But before he could fully savor the victory, another voice cut through the room. "Excuse me," said a calm but commanding tone. The heads of staff members turned. At the door stood Ethaniel, dressed sharply in a dark suit, his jaw set with quiet determination. Beside him, leaning on his cane yet standing tall with dignity, was Mr. Howard. The clerk frowned. "Can I help you, sir?" "Yes," Ethaniel replied smoothly. "That ticket belongs to my uncle. And we have proof." Travis's breath caught in his throat. His face drained of color as Mr. Howard slowly stepped forward. Though blind, he seemed to look directly into the cashier's soul. "I trusted you," Mr. Howard said, his voice low but steady. "I handed you my ticket, the same way I have every Friday for years. And you slipped it into your pocket, thinking I wouldn't notice. You thought blindness meant weakness." Murmurs spread through the office. The clerk glanced uneasily between them. Ethaniel handed over documents from the lottery office, timestamps, cashier IDs, the record of the exact transaction. Everything lined up perfectly. Travis stammered, words tumbling out in broken pieces. I didn't, it wasn't like that." But his excuses collapsed under the weight of truth. Security stepped in, guiding him toward the exit as his voice cracked with panic. The fantasy of wealth, cars, and freedom evaporated like mist in the sun. Mr. Howard, meanwhile, remained composed. He didn't smile, nor did he gloat. Instead, he turned slightly, as though addressing not only Travis but everyone in the room. "Money doesn't reveal who you are," he said quietly. "It exposes who you've been all along." The lottery officials confirmed ownership. The winnings were his. But to everyone's surprise, Mr. Howard didn't claim the fortune for himself. He requested it be transferred into a foundation account he had already established years earlier. One that funded scholarships for underprivileged youth, healthcare programs for the elderly, and local businesses struggling to survive. Reporters swarmed when the story hit the news. Cameras captured the image of the blind old man who, despite having billions quietly tucked away, chose once again to use money not for greed, but for good. As for Travis, his downfall was swift. Fired from his job, disgraced in his community, and facing charges, he realized too late that desperation had blinded him far more than Mr. Howard's eyes ever could. Weeks later, Sandra sat with Mr. Howard at the diner, pouring him a cup of tea. "You could have ruined him," she said softly. "But you didn't." "Why?" Mr. Howard tilted his head, his expression calm. "Because ruin teaches nothing. But shame, that lingers. Sometimes the greatest punishment is letting a man live with what he's done." Sandra nodded, her respect for him deepening. She had always admired his quiet presence, but now she saw the wisdom behind it. And so, the town carried on, forever changed by the lesson. Trust wasn't something you measured with eyes but with actions. Hope wasn't in the lottery, it was in kindness, integrity, and how you used whatever fortune life gave you. The old man never stopped buying his Friday ticket. Not because he needed it, but because it reminded him of something greater, that luck fades, but character remains. And as for Travis, every time he walked past the corner store, he no longer saw it as the place where he almost became rich, but as the place where his true self was revealed.